Hi, I'm Andrew Ginter, the principal broker at your Keller Williams office, Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan. Today, we're going to go through the new exclusive buyer agency agreement. I'm going to go through it kind of paragraph by paragraph and explain kind of what's going on in each of the paragraphs and what their intent is as well, so that you understand it well, so you'll be able to present it well to your clients moving forward. Okay, here's the document. And this is the buyer representation agreement. It is a 4-page document. The 4th page is all just signatures. So 3 pages of things we're going to go through here today. Right at the top, this first lines 1 through 7 is just the exclusive representation language. It just states clearly that they're agreeing to hire you and Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan to represent them to look for and purchase a piece of real estate. Really important that in line 6 and 7 that you do have dates in there. Those dates could be a day apart, a month apart, a year apart. That part doesn't matter. From like a sales perspective, you've got somebody who's not entirely certain that they want to move forward. You could always make this a week long and say, hey, if at the end of the week you feel like I'm doing my job, let's extend it then. You could, that's totally up to you. There's no requirement here as to how long it needs to be or how short it needs to be. One thing to note, lines 8 and 9 is the statement that they are clearly not represented by anybody else. So they're making that statement by moving forward with you. They're saying they're not currently under any other kind of exclusive agency agreement of any kind. Okay. That the very first section beneath that exclusive agency language is kind of our duties to the buyer, which is assistance to you as buyer. So this is really kind of a bare minimum. It goes kind of from start to finish through the process. So it starts off with things like showings, lenders, and educating on the home process, all the way down through inspections, and then ending with communicating dates for closings and handling keys and things like that. So like I said, this is not an exhaustive list by any means. You probably want something that's more of a marketing piece that you're going to attach to this to say, like, here's all the things you're going to get from me in addition to the things in the agreement, because this is what I do for my clients. We didn't want to get into going much beyond a bare minimum and tying agents to things they don't currently do. Below that is duties of the buyer. So first thing we say, here's what we're going to do for you. And then right after that follow-up paragraph, lines 21 through 30, 25 through 31 rather, is making a statement that they understand that they're obligating themselves to work with us and solely us in exchange for what we're doing for them up above. So anything tied to the process, whether it be looking at houses, writing offers, gathering information about a property, coming up with what we think it's worth, all that kind of stuff. But they're going to do all that through the brokerage, which means through you, their agent. On line 29, you will see inserted there is a statement there that's in the duties. That's not really a duty, but just a right, that signing this and moving forward with their agent does not obligate them to purchase a property or even make an offer on a property. It just obligates them to work with that agent to try and buy a property and to buy one if they do find one. Then down below, the last sentence or so there, lines 30 and 31 really, the purpose of that in there, where it's saying that they agree to cooperate, they agree not to interfere, seems silly. Obviously, if a person wants to buy a house, they're going to cooperate with their agent. They're not going to interfere with them trying to get a property under contract and things. But the real purpose for that is the fact that there is no language in here about terminating the agreement. So the way it would be terminated, if an agent's not doing what they're supposed to do, a buyer would say, hey, you told me you were going to do this, you're not doing it, I'm going to move forward with somebody else. And we could release a listing, release a buyer, just like we can release a listing. And likewise, we can release them for them not doing what they're supposed to do. So them getting in the way, not doing what they're supposed to do, gives us that opportunity, and that's why that's in there. Then down below that, this next section, probably one of the more important pieces in here, because it's a combination of some due diligence language and the property condition language that's already in our purchase agreement. That just makes it clear that they understand they're buying real estate as is. All real estate is sold as is, in the sense that it's up to you to do any investigation you need to prior to purchasing to make sure that it's the property that you want. Because after you buy it, it's yours, right? So it's basically just saying that it's their job to, do inspections, identify defects, make sure that it's going to suit their needs, just from like a usage standpoint. So say it's it's a mixed use building and they're going to try and live in the whole thing. Obviously, the zoning wouldn't allow for that, right? So it's important that they do all that research and make sure that it fits their needs. In our job as agents isn't to make those decisions for them. It's to help them gather the information they need so they can make those decisions. So this paragraph is making it clear that it's their responsibility to make sure the property is fitting for them, and it's our responsibility to help them gather that information to do it. In the next section, 44 through 51, the professional service providers, it delineates the fact that we are not all things for those people. We are a licensed real estate brokerage and licensed realtors. We are not surveyors, title agents, engineers, appraisers, attorneys, any of those things, right? So if over the course of finding and purchasing a property, they need an engineer to look at something, then we're going to help them get an engineer so that they can have an engineer look at it. Because we can't be responsible for ensuring that the property is structurally sound, because that's not our profession. So this paragraph is just making that clear, that there are things we can do and things we can't do. And the things we can't do, we'll have to get a professional to handle those things. And then at the very end, it does make clear that, we're not specifically endorsing or warranting anybody's opinions, whether they be inspectors or contractors or engineers or whatever. That is between the buyer and that service provider, not with us, even though we may have been the party that recommended them to help them with an engineering question or a legal question or something of that sort. This seller's disclosure section, again, there's some similar language in our purchase agreement currently. One thing about this document that's pretty helpful is a lot of the stuff in our purchase agreement is in there just to get it in front of the buyer for the first time. And now we have the chance to get it in front of them long before they're writing an offer on a house, but rather when they're entertaining the idea of buying a piece of real estate. So that seller disclosure section does a couple of things. It just, one, puts them on notice that it's going to be their job to review and understand the seller's disclosure. And obviously, if they have questions, we can help them and we can get answers for them if something on the disclosure raises a question. But it also makes the statement very clearly here that as a buyer's agent, we can't guarantee that the seller's disclosures are accurate. We can't guarantee the seller has knowledge of every single defect in the property. So it would be fraud for a seller to not disclose something they know about that's a defect. But in most cases, when things go undisclosed, it's because the seller doesn't even know about it yet. And that's why it's not disclosed. And it's important that buyers understand the way disclosures work. And that's the purpose of this paragraph. Because we don't have the ability to guarantee they're accurate. We can't guarantee the seller's either telling the truth or that they're aware of the whole truth. So that's what it's saying there. And then it does also go a little bit further into even marketing material, that we can't guarantee that something a listing agent says or that tax records say is accurate. So if a person is buying a property because of something specific, like I'm just going to say something generic. Let's say that the size of a pool. If that's really important to them, we can't guarantee that the information that we've been given is accurate. So go measure the pool, buyer. Let's when we go to do your home inspection, bring a tape measure and we're going to measure that pool. Make sure that it's what you think it is, because that's the way this works. It's the buyer's responsibility to make sure that things that are important to them are investigated so that they know that they're accurate. Down below that, the home warranty section, pretty self-explanatory. It's just making the statement, one, that a home warranty will be offered to them when they purchase, whether it's being offered by a seller already or we're just offering it inside of our purchase agreement because it's in there. But then secondly, and more importantly, it makes the statement that we may be paid if they buy a home warranty and we process it. So that's the purpose of that there. Now, in the compensation section, you will see line 62, all capitalized and bolded. That is very specifically there on purpose due to the NAR settlement. That statement needs to be made when talking about commissions, that broker commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. So, and negotiable doesn't mean that the buyer gets to pick. It just means that they get to negotiate them. And, you know, if we don't agree to do it for what the buyer wants to have it done for, then we just won't do business. And that's okay. But down below, there we go. Down below, you see there's two choices, an A and a B. Choice A is the one you're most familiar with. It's kind of the one we've used, in the past. It just has the broker additional commission fee, the brokerage fee of $249, and then after that, a percentage of purchase price that is being charged as commission upon a sale. And then below that, you've got a minimum commission dollar amount. And I would encourage you to always have that filled in. You might meet with somebody that initially starts off looking for houses between 150 and 200, and then a month in takes a hard left and buys some estate sale for $75,000 because they say, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of work, I'm going to get a rehab loan or whatever. And you need to make sure, if you don't have that minimum in there and you told them it was going to be 2.5%, 2.5% is what you're going to get, as opposed to a minimum, say, of $3,500 or something like that. And down below that in section B, it would just be a flat fee. If you say, hey, I agree to work with you, and when you buy a house, I'm going to get a commission of $5,000. Then you just put the $5,000 there on the blank line. You'll check the blank line there on 65 or 70, acknowledging that you want A or B as the choice. And then down below that, 71 through 73, that's not just tied to B. I know it's indented and it may look like it is, but that is for retainer fee. You can use a retainer fee with either A or B. And a retainer fee is quite simply just an upfront amount of commission that the buyer is going to pay you to get started that is non-refundable. So if they don't buy a house, that retainer fee is kept. So when in those scenarios, if you get an agreement signed with a retainer fee, they would write a check for whatever the retainer fee amount is, whether that's $100 or $500 or $1,000, whatever it is. That check gets made out to Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan and gets deposited and treated just like commission as though a sale closed. So it'll get paid out just like it would if it was a regular commission. And then if you were using section B and you said that the commission was going to be $5,000 when they purchase and you collected a $1,000 retainer fee up front, the day of closing, you'd be crediting back that $1,000 somehow. So if the buyer was paying the commission, they would just only pay $4,000. If the seller was paying commission and it was $5,000, you'd be giving the buyer a closing cost credit of $1,000. So that's because it's basically prepaid that commission. That's all that retainer fee is. One thing on retainer fees when it comes to like potential fair housing issues, if you're going to use a retainer fee, there needs to be consistency with it. So if you're it doesn't need to mean that you charge it all the time to everybody. It could, but it wouldn't have to be that in order to be consistent. It could be, I charge a retainer fee to all investor clients. I charge a retainer fee to all out-of-town buyers. And as long as you do it to everybody in that category, you'd be safe. But if you start doing it like, I'm going to charge it to this guy because I don't feel real good about him, he may be wasting my time, and then I'm not going to charge it to this person over here, even though you may not be intending it to be, based on anything fair housing related. If it appears to be, that could be a problem for you. So be consistent with it if you're going to use it. The rest of that compensation section, 74 through 78, is basically just stating that if we can get commission from a seller or a listing broker, that commission will get credited against what we said we were charging them. So let's say you're using section A and you've got 3% in there. If we find a listing for them that's offering a 2% commission, then the seller's going to pay 2% and the buyer's going to pay 1%. Now let's flip that around. Let's say we were charging them 2%, and we found a listing that was offering 3%. We can't collect that third point, because our agreement with our client says that the amount we're going to get paid is 2%. So even though we found a seller offering 3, we can only collect 2. So think about that when you're deciding how much you want to charge. And then the top 2 lines on the next page are technically part of the compensation section. Not really a great place for this, but there just needed to be a disclaimer here about the fact that buyers are not going to get charged a commission if they get a property under contract, go through the process, and for some reason the seller doesn't close. We will not be charging those buyers a commission for that sale as though it should have closed and it didn't. So we still deserve to be paid because we did our job. That's not going to happen. Buyers will not be paying commission on sales that don't close due to the seller not closing. The protection period language, 81 through 84, pretty similar to our listing agreement. This is just kind of an industry standard protection that needs to exist because there are people out there that will take advantage of our time and resources and then proceed to not pay us and get deals done for less money because they don't have to pay us. It's unfortunate, but that happens. So what this says is any property that you brought to your client, that you showed them, wrote an offer on it, whatever it might be, if they buy that house anytime inside of 180 days after this agreement expires, that they still owe us a commission. So we'll see how this part of this plays out. Because notice in here, there is no language about if they sign an agreement with another agent, which our protection period in our listing agreement says if they list the property with another broker, our protection period expires. That is not the case here. Confidentiality section, pretty straightforward. Obviously, we need to keep things confidential about our buyer. That would be damaging if a seller knew about it to them getting the best opportunity possible. Also, anything that they tell us they want kept confidential, we have to keep that confidential too. And sometimes that could get a little strange. Like they may say, I don't want you to tell them how much I'm putting down, or I don't want you to tell them how much I'm pre-approved for. And those may be things you have to have a conversation with your clients about, but if they give you those instructions and you don't have a conversation about it, you need to keep it confidential. That's what this document's saying. The agency section. One thing I want to note here is this buyer agency agreement does not take the place of the consumer guide in any way. The state requires a consumer guide to be signed and will continue to require that. So now, at that first substantive contact prior to showings, you should be getting a consumer guide and this document signed. Now, the consumer guide is our policy on agency relationships. That's the purpose of the document. So what this section is saying is if they have any questions about that they're going to direct those to their agent or to a management level licensee here. All I will say about this is if your clients have questions about our policy regarding some type of agency relationship that you don't feel comfortable answering or need some help on, just reach out to me and I'm happy to get those answers and make sure things are explained and understood so that everybody can move forward. The fair housing paragraph, that's a government prescribed paragraph. I think fair housing is important to put sellers on notice of because they're the ones who will commit fair housing violations. On the buyer side, they're the ones generally having them committed against. So this kind of explains their rights, but this is just a prescribed thing that has to exist. The cybersecurity section, I think on the buyer side, this is really important. That's why it's in our purchase agreement. And this is another one of those things, it's good to get it in front of them before the purchase agreement. So what all this lays out is the fact that one, we are never going to ask them for wired funds or for bank account information or for credit card information. There could be a very rare circumstance where we need to hold the earnest money for some reason and they have to wire the earnest money. But outside of that, we're never going to be the ones providing them wiring instructions for the title company or getting credit card information for the appraisal for the lender. So first and foremost, it's important they understand that, right? That they should never be sending us financial information like those things. And if they are, it's probably not us. It's somebody acting like us. So don't do it. And secondly, it's really important that buyers confirm wiring instructions with the title company. So tell them to do that over and over again so that they do it when it comes time. We've had a handful that I can think of off the top of my head. One guy, it almost happened to twice. Wiring money to the wrong place and losing it. I mean, it's gone. Once that happens, it's gone. It's very hard to get it back, and in most cases, it never reappears. And in some cases, our clients are wiring hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not, we're not wiring $5,000. So really important that you make sure that they're confirming these instructions over the phone with the person who sent them to them, so that there's no mistakes being made and money not going to the wrong place. And last thing on here is the other potential buyers section. So this is the more formally termed contemporaneous offers language. Just putting your clients on notice that you may have multiple clients looking in the same neighborhoods and in the same price range, and you may show multiple people the same listing. And you may have multiple people wanting to write offers on the same listing. And this names the process for that. You would disclose in writing to any parties that want to write an offer on the same property. You would let them know, hey, I have you and one other client or two other clients that want to write offers on 123 Main Street. Are you comfortable with me handling that or not? And if not, you can refer them to somebody else and get a referral fee still. And you could even refer them, and then if their deal's the one that gets accepted, it means one of the other ones you wrote didn't. And then you could still represent that person after the fact if you really wanted to. But however that plays out is up to you. But just know you have to disclose if you're writing multiple offers on the same property. And in order to be able to do that, you need to get written confirmation from those clients that they're okay with it. And if they're not, you'd refer it to another agent here in our office. And then lastly, that little legal blurb there is just making it clear that this agreement is the entire agreement. There's no other conditions, representations, warranties, or anything else that are tied to this agreement in any way. This is the entire buyer agency agreement here, and nobody's obligated to anything else outside of this agreement when it pertains to the agency relationship. So, and that gets us through our entire exclusive buyer agency agreement that we will start requiring as of July 1st, 2024. Thank you all for watching.